I'm out and about on my bicycle. I'm up here where we play petanque with some friends, and they've kind of upgraded the park a little bit with some more picnic tables and barbecue facilities, and they have a toilet here now, which is nice. And right behind this facility, this little park, is a park, just a wooded area uh, that's patchworked around the region. So it's very pleasant here, lots of trees, very nice. And it's nice to come up here and just take a break. I was at the market at a village nearby, having a look just for fun. So yeah, these days, I guess, the last week, the Epstein thing is back in the news. It comes and goes. Of course, as usual, Trump makes a mess of everything, so he causes his own problems. And I just want people to know that you never have to feel sorry for Donald Trump because he's always happy. He's a pig in shit. He is hanging around, throwing shit at the wall, waiting to see what sticks. And when something sticks, he giggles and farts and slobbers and talks nonsense. And he's just so thrilled and pleased to have all the attention that he has. He just loves the attention. So as long as he's center stage, he's going to be the happiest man alive. It doesn't matter who suffers. It doesn't matter how many things he and his stooges screw up. And you have to keep in mind that however much of an agent Donald Trump is, he's not the thing. The thing is the whole system and all of the people, the neocons and neoliberals. And not conspiratorially, but the bankers and the markets and all that. It's that apparatus, that milieu, that culture that surrounds him that is actually in charge. They're the suits, the blue suits that come along and tell these agents or useful idiots how to behave and what to do. Of course, as a tool, he does have power because he has a lot of, mechanisms at his disposal to exercise power. And he will do that, but not without all the little devils on his shoulders, whispering in his ears. Like it's so interesting to think about Cohn and his influence over Trump when he was a young man, just like learning what it means to be in power. And I was reading that Opus Dei book, and I came across this YouTube video of a black female Catholic in the United States who's a bodybuilder, and she's in the fitness industry, and she's an Opus Dei member, and she loves Opus Dei, and she loves the founder, and she reads the books, and she puts up YouTube videos about it. As far as I'm concerned, they're a cult. But you have to understand that these cults are extremely powerful. Just like the Unification Church purchasing the Washington Post and lots of real estate, lots and lots of houses, financing lots and lots of businesses. That's what Opus Dei does. Worldwide they have a membership of about 30,000, which is nothing. But you have to look at the members that they do have and how they cultivate and develop the membership. And Justice Scalia was a big fan before he passed away of Opus Dei. And, they have people well placed in the power structures around the world to get away with whatever they need to get away with. Next election, we'll have J.D. Vance. He's an Opus Dei guy. It's not like this bizarre conspiracy, or even that necessarily they start out by using the let's develop a Catholic cult playbook and how do cults operate and all that. They just know that it works. They find out probably by trial and error what works, and it just turns out that controlling and manipulating people psychologically and culturally, and kind of owning their work, owning them as a kind of enslavement, the labor force that they have, and convincing people that the only path to the truth is through their little clique. And if you really want to be close to God, you got to be one of them. Of course, there's millions of sects like this around the world in any religion, and so everybody thinks they know the absolute truth, and you want to know the truth because you want to get closer to God. So when somebody tells you that they know the absolute truth, you're pretty excited, and many people are vulnerable to that and become inclined to believe the stories they tell, and to give up their freedom and agency and their minds, their brains, their sense of self-worth, their hopes and dreams. They just give all of that up to follow the cult. It's unfortunate, but this is the way of the world. It's always been like this, and now it's turbocharged because of the wonderful communications tools that we have. And people, many people are very vulnerable to it. But most of us are just putty in the hands of culture, the zeitgeist. And so I'm a complete modernity addict, like all of us are. And it's I don't know what I would do without modernity, without all the tools and stuff that we have. Could I survive? Could I live another day if I didn't have all this, electricity and computers and all that kind of stuff? I don't know if I could. I could find out if I had to, and it would be uncomfortable. I'd do my best to survive another day, but there's so much injustice in the world and horror going on, and these powerful cliques, organizations, religious sects, and so on, have an inordinate amount of power, considering that the majority of opinion of plebs and proles, or ordinary people, would not agree with their perspective at all. Hence the small memberships. And yet they have the power because they know what's important, right? Money, finance, banks, real estate, investments, capital, and they know that they can buy whatever they need to buy with those, with capital, basically. So you can buy your politicians, you can buy your judges, you can buy your police officers, anything. So, gosh, we're really kind of in trouble with that. And many of my friends point out that there's nothing we can do about it, so why worry about it? Just forget about it. It's going down, never mind. And I understand that sentiment completely. It makes a lot of sense. So, the Epstein thing is just another expression of that, where you have, however it works, I don't know, just whatever. Different powerful sects trying to control powerful people who are decision makers and so on, lawmakers. And they know that compromat works, that bribery works. The whole thing is so corrupt, it's mind-boggling. And in the United States these days, it's just outwardly in your face corrupt. Everybody knows it, and nobody feels like they have any power. Hopeless, powerless, helpless, and they just feel like there's nothing they can do but get angry and watch their YouTube channels and listen to their radio, the people that make them feel like they're not alone, that other people see what's wrong with the system. But of course, that doesn't translate into rebellion or doing anything, organizing and working hard to change things, or even to cultivating a critical mindset and critical thinking skills that allow you to have a better imagination and be more creative and maybe come up with a system that might be better in the long run than the one we have now globally. So, yeah, it's a mess. People with privilege and with power and lots of money can do what they want. They like to take risks or they wouldn't be in a position of power. And so when they do naughty things and break the law and do horrific things, they feel more or less they can get away with it. And in general, they always do, which is sad or tragic for the victims. And there are so many victims around the world. And we can watch victims on our screens every day in parts of the world. But there are a lot of victims that we can't see. They're invisible. We never hear about them. And their tragedy gets swept under the rug, and it's, no justice ever comes to these people. And that's terribly sad. I don't think we'll ever know exactly what happened with Epstein, and even if we did, we'd forget about it when the next scandalous thing breaks into the news, and we start to be outraged about that. And we're also trained to be afraid of the barbarians at the gates who are pointing our fingers at outsiders and trying to blame them for everything. And that never ends either, because human beings are kind of wired that way. It's not that we couldn't learn how to be a different kind of person, but we're not going to be indigenous people. We're not going to suddenly decide that everything's sacred and we have to be good stewards and caretakers of the natural world, because that's not how we live. And at this scale, billions of people, it's impossible, because we need a lot of materials and energy to feed and house and take care of billions of people. I don't care what you say about ephemeralization or technology or innovation or engineering or any of that stuff. At this scale of civilization, it has embedded in it this cutthroat competition, multipolar traps. It's all kind of baked in to the recipe of the whole structure, system. So we're stuck with it. At some point, nature wins, because you can't argue with physics. Reality is physics. Reality is biology. Reality is chemistry. Reality is gravity. Reality is time. Reality is space. We have theories and models of those things, but they come from us. When somebody says, listen to nature, nature has all the answers, like W.T. Odom did, yeah, we're listening, but we're listening with this story in our head, this narrative that involves language and a certain kind of consciousness. So even when we're listening to nature and creating models to explain how nature works, we're filtering it through our species' unique way of understanding the world, which is problematic in and of itself. If you want to go back to being hunter-gatherers or indigenous people and caring about the watershed and all that kind of stuff, you'd have to be living on a planet, on an Earth with 100 million people or maybe 5 million people on it, if you wanted to give nature a chance and let it rest and let it start to evolve again according to its own life forces, the energy transfers inherent in the scheme of complex living systems. We don't want to do that, because we don't want to give up our stuff and our life. So we're not going to fight for that. But what we will fight for is a career, more money. That gives us an illusion of agency, like if I can buy the things I want to buy, I'm cool. You hear this all the time from our leaders in the United States in Congress talking about, well, it's the power to have something nicer and to produce something. When I talk about the Enlightenment philosophers like John Locke or Adam Smith or people like that, you're just looking at this way of looking at the world where, and by the way, it doesn't mean we have to read deeply John Locke and Adam Smith to understand who they were and what they really meant. I'm not vilifying these people, but we misinterpret what they have to say. We take their lessons out of context, or we don't understand the context in which they thought and lived. And we misunderstand maybe what they mean by productivity and so on. But on the other hand, from a Calvinist perspective or something like that, maybe it is just literally what they mean. Like, you're useless and worthless if you're not exploiting what God gave us, which is everything on the planet. And our job is to do something with it. It's God's will. And of course, from other perspectives, animistic or pantheistic or other cultural perspectives, that's insanity. So you watch that movie 7 Years in Tibet with Brad Pitt, and the tailor woman in Lhasa is saying, we don't think like that. You know, why do you climb a mountain? Because it's there. We think that's insane. You know, we try to transcend our ego. That's what we do in our culture. Of course, if you have a culture like that, China will come in and say, historically, you've always been a part of China, and we want you to be Han Chinese now. I'm not vilifying China or anything, but I'm just saying that's what happens to indigenous people with unique cultures that don't want to control everything. They have less power. They have less, they just have less power to make the world conform to their wants and needs. So that's a tragedy. And if you're Native American people, obviously you fought as hard as you could to keep your land, but you lost it. At the end of the day, the invading hordes of immigrants and colonialists, call them what you will, had more power, and they took it from you. Their thinking, their way of looking at the world was more powerful in the sense that it allowed them the intellectual, ideological, and spiritual tools to believe that they were doing the right thing by killing you, the savage, and taking your land. And of course, what is savage? It depends on your perspective, right? So when we massacre the natives, it's not savagery, it's God's work. And when they massacre us, it's terrorism. And we see that today. It never goes away, unfortunately. It's tragic. So I don't know. We're going to be angry at this whole list of clients. Even if we had a client list, it would be litigated until the end of days, until the last person on earth died. Because you wouldn't just be able to say, oh, the client list, you're all guilty of sex trafficking and rape. And you'd have to prove it all in the courts. There's statute of limitations, I guess, other loopholes that these people would avail themselves of. It was so easy for Prince Andrew to pay off his victims, and not a problem. And at the end of the day, his victim paid with her life. She couldn't take it anymore and took her own life, which is very sad. But they skate, they walk. You know, Bill Clinton being on the Lolita Express 27 times or whatever it is. I mean, why would you not think so? Interns and all that. And there's also lots of science and studies about how powerful men have a more powerful libido and more testosterone, and they're more aggressive, and they feel like, and unfortunately the whole culture goes along with it. You know, for every true victim, there are people who go along with it and make these people feel empowered and make them feel like they have the right to do these horrific things. So even if we had all the information, people would write books about it. They already have. And a few people would read it. You know, a bestseller, you'd sell, what, 100,000 books? I don't know. But anyhow, hardly anybody would read it. And it wouldn't matter anyway, because you'd be moving on to the next thing. It's not like we're all going to be saints tomorrow. We're not even trying. We're not even trying. So, yeah, it's the Epstein thing. It's outrageous, but, you know, whatever. He's dead. Ghislaine Maxwell's in prison. Her dad's dead. But there's somebody to fill their place every second. One emperor dies, another one comes and fills his shoes. One boss dies, another one comes up. It's not like they just disappear. That's why you can try to kill all the bad guys you want. And as long as we have a culture like this, there'll be another bad guy to come in and take their place. It just never stops, right? Throw a dart at a historic timeline and any place in the world and do your analysis. How were things going back then? So, yeah, I'm addicted to modernity. We're all addicted to it. So, we're going to just have to wait until circumstances, which is the most brutal dictator known to human beings, rises up and makes it impossible for us to do this anymore. And then we'll see what happens next. Are we going to consciously, purposefully develop a kinder, gentler culture that's more quote unquote indigenous, or treats the world as a sacred place or whatever, or not? I mean, I can see that happening if there were 5 million people on the planet, but I can't see it with 9 or 10 billion. So anyway, that's all I have to say today, and have a nice weekend. Bouliam tea, out.
Escolham as americanas, escolham. Aqui. Ai, eu quero ficar sentando. Eu queria dizer. Vamos ver. Eu vou ter umas duas que eu tenho que ir.